What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So in this video we're going to break it down between the new Elysium Eau Intense from Roja Parfums, and we're comparing it to the better seller of the three, the Elysium Parfum Cologne, and the Parfum Homme. We're going to break it down into a few categories, and we're going to rank them accordingly at the end. But we're going to cover scent, we're going to cover performance, we're going to cover situations and seasons and so on and all that good stuff. Best times, in my opinion, to wear these. And what I have to say may surprise some of you. So stay tuned. So first things first, probably the most popular is the Parfum Cologne. It's the most replicated. It's the most sold. This one is heavily metallic, fresh, and citrus. Just beautiful. One of the best blue fragrance freshies ever to come out. People have complained about performance issues, which we'll discuss performance in a little bit. But as far as the scent, this is a notorious compliment magnet for a lot of people. It's super attractive and alluring to others. It's just a very believable metallic citrus smell. There's a little bit of an herbal, a fresh green herbaceous feel to it, and you do get a lot of vetiver. That's mainly what the dry down's about. It's this fresh, woody vetiver tone. There's nothing complex and complicated about this. There's a little depth to it, but I would say between the three, this is probably the most simplistic and straightforward of the concentrations. What also came out in that same year of 2017 is the Parfum Homme. So these all three have the exact same note breakdown, which I will have put on the screen by now. So with this one, it's a much sweeter citrus because it's a higher oil concentration. So they didn't really change the formula, and I don't necessarily know if too much of the balance changed, but I have to say the citrus here is a bit on the sweeter side overall. It doesn't lack any freshness, and the main thing I want to say about this, and I firmly believe this is, in my opinion, the best opening ever created. That's how I feel about it. Not everybody's going to agree with me. It is my opinion. But as far as the first, opening blast into the first hour, this is the best first hour I've ever smelled of a fragrance. It just is. It's incredibly inviting, alluring, fresh. It's simple, but not too simple. Like, you get fruits. It still has a little bit of that metallic tone. It's not as sharp and metallic as this one. It's not quite as watery as the Parfum Cologne. This is basically the refined version to this. It's very well suited. It smells like the fresh fragrance built for somebody with the means to spend hundreds of dollars on a 50 ml fresh fragrance. That's basically the way it comes across to me. This smells like a very luxurious citrus aromatic fragrance. That's the most simplistic way I can put it. As it dries, you get a much more woody facet. I do get a lot more of the musk here than I do the leather. And the vetiver is still present, but it doesn't dominate the dry down as much in this one as the Parfum Cologne, though still a very noticeable woody presence as it dries down. And again, I get a little bit more of the herbal feel from this one. The greens get a little bit denser in the heart, but it's more of a floral tone than the dense greens overall. This one, like I said, a little bit more complexity and a little bit more depth overall versus the Parfum Cologne. Now, when we're talking about the scent on the newest version, Elysium Eau Intense. So this is the biggest departure of the three. So this does not have the hefty metallic tone of the Parfum Cologne, but you still kind of get that feel to it. The biggest caveat to this opening is it has this bitter herbal feel. So the rhubarb is heightened greatly. I don't even really get the rhubarb in the other two, where it kind of dominates the opening of this fragrance. It's a very strange one, and this is going to sound a little weird, but almost like a freshly laundered wet laundry type of feel to it, damp laundry. I know that doesn't sound very appealing, but I guess a better way to put it would be like this wet concrete mineralic type of tone with this bitter herbal feel, and you still get that metallic feel, but there's no sharpness to it whatsoever. It's more of a watery feel to the way the citrus and fruits come across. The black currant is very prominent in this particular version. Man, it's so unique compared to the other two. I feel like this is more of the enthusiast scent profile of the three, where the first two we talked about, the Parfum Cologne and the Parfum Homme, or basically to please the masses. This is more to please the niche crowd in the fragrance community. Now, is that exactly what the vision was by Roja Dove? I don't know. That's just how I feel about it, the way this one comes across. This one is by far and wide the most interesting smelling of the three. Now, in regards to performance, now your mileage may vary. This is just my experience with the three of these. So again, starting with the Parfum Cologne, here I get about 6 to 7 hours of longevity. I've had people complain about 2 to 3 hours. It's not worth it. It's too expensive for that. Everybody's going to be different. That's why I encourage you to get samples and try all three of these. None of these are blind buy safe in my opinion. Though this is the most mass appealing and fresh of the group, I still don't think this one is blind buy safe either. It's just a joy to smell all three of these because there's so much difference to them while still being centered around the same base DNA and the same note breakdown. It's reworked formula from one to the other. And here, the projection is on the heavy side in the first hour to hour and a half. It's a very bright and charismatic type of opening. It's really strong in that first hour and a half. Then it settles down into a moderate to moderate mild sillage where you'll get nice whiffs of it, but it's not overwhelmingly strong. I don't get hefty, dense, hits of it coming off of my skin when I move certain ways throughout the remaining life of the fragrance. But overall, this is the weakest performing of the three for me. In regards to the Parfum pour Homme, this one's kind of a beast on my skin. So I have clocked this one easily 10 to 12 hours on my skin. The high oil concentration does it justice. The projection is not overwhelmingly heavy. I would say the Parfum Cologne is brighter and louder in the first hour to hour and a half, whereas this is kind of moderate, arm's reach, maybe a little bit better, just a little bit softer in its projection overall versus the Parfum Cologne because it's not as bright and volatile. Here, the raised oil concentration, I think the benefit in the performance comes from A, the longevity, and B, the sillage. So this one has more of a moderate to moderate heavy sillage. At least on my skin, it creates quite the dense cloud that has a lingering trail when I wear this one. It's actually quite impressive. This is where it becomes a bit of a beast for me. It's not so much in the early stages, it's in the overall performance of the fragrance. It's long and pretty strong. Overall, that's the easiest way I can put it. It's long and strong without being overwhelming, without being abrasive, without being in your face. And again, super charismatics because you're going to get a similar feel and I would say overall type of experience with the Parfum pour Homme that you will with the Parfum Cologne as far as from others because they're both created for the masses. This is just the high oil concentration version of that one. So it's still probably, like I said, the best first hour of a fragrance, the best opening I've ever smelled. And then the dry down to this is just, it's magic. There's magic in this one, and it is the best performing of the three. Now with the Eau Intense, I think this is the happy medium. So I've been clocking this one longevity-wise in the 8 to 10 hour range. Now, in high heat, probably do a little worse than that. The projection, however, I would say kind of falls into a similarity to the Parfum Cologne. It's a bit brighter than the Parfum pour Homme, but not quite as bright. It kind of falls in the middle in the projection where it's on the pretty heavy side, but only for about an hour to hour and a half. Then it sits pretty close to the skin overall. I would say this is more in the moderate to mild sillage overall. This one's a little bit more subdued, but longer lasting. It's crazy how all three have different levels of performance, different levels to the scent, with being the same note breakdown and the same DNA. It's crazy the way it worked out. I think for those that don't want to make too much of a statement and you want to leave room for discovery, but you want it to last a long time on your skin, that's where this one comes in. This one, again, we go back to the scent profile, is the most interesting and niche, more crowd specific, I guess you could say, take on the DNA. It's got the longevity. It's not abrasive and overwhelming, but it's a little bit polarizing at the same time. And the performance here, I'm sure based on the name, people would expect a monster. It's not all that intense in its performance as it is more intense in its scent profile when you compare it to the other two variations. But overall, this is well above average across the board minus the sillage. It's a more subdued sillage that I still get light whiffs of, but nothing where it's constantly non-stop reminder that it's on my skin, just faint whiffs of it here and there, nice little light aroma hits throughout the life of it. So 8 to 10 hours longevity, average, moderate type of projection, and then moderate to mild sillage. So between the three, if we're ranking them, longest lasting, strongest sillage, weakest projection. Second longest lasting, second strongest projection, probably the weakest sillage. Shortest lived, strongest projection, middle of the road sillage. Now, situationally, I think the three of these have something to offer for different people, for different lifestyles. Whereas the Parfum Cologne, this is carefree, this is easygoing, this is I want to attract women, this is going to the clubs, this is summertime fresh, this is the best for the warm weather. High heat, this is the one I would suggest. Everyday wear, all three of them work for everyday wear. Let's get that out the way now. They all have the versatility to wear on a day-to-day basis. If you just, hey, I spent a lot of money on this, I'm wearing the shit every day. I get that. You're absolutely in for that. But I would think ideal scenarios for this one, who this is for, is the guy that lives in the warmer climate, the single man that's constantly going out looking for ladies, and positive attention from your fragrance kind of works to your cause and your purpose of why you're wearing it in the first place. I think the Parfum Cologne is who that suits, and those are the best situations for it. Now, the Parfum pour Homme, this guy's a little bit more subdued with his personality. He's just not out chasing females. He's maybe more focused on his career, more of a business professional, whereas he wants the longevity. He likes when people tells him he smells nice, so he doesn't want it too in your face, but you're going to smell him when he walks into your airspace because this lingers in the air. It's got a strong cloud kind of following him around pretty much his entire day, but it has the versatility to do pretty much anything he wants. This is the year-round fragrance. It's strong enough to work as a freshie in the cold, but not so heavy and dense that it doesn't work in high heat situations. If anything, it'll just make it project heavier when it's super hot and maybe you're outdoors wearing this one. But this one dresses up pretty well with a suit and tie. This is a great business professional that's all about his business, has the money to spend, and wants a fragrance that smells like money. It does smell of an upper echelon, maybe higher class take on the scent profile. I would think that's the proper settings and who this particular fragrance is for. And lastly, we have the Eau Intense. Now, this is the fragrance lover's version of the scent. I say that because it's going to be the most polarizing. It's got potential in this opening to off-put some and to make others appreciate it and say, this is what they should have did in the first place. This is the one I've been waiting for. That's something you're going to hear in a fragrance enthusiast, fragrance aficionado, that they're going to gravitate to this one. Now, the caveat is those are also the people that most of the time really want the performance, but then again, I would say more leaning to the enthusiast and aficionado versus somebody that's just a fragrance lover. Your fragrance lovers command the performance. Your enthusiasts and aficionados are all about the wearing experience and how they feel about the scent profile. That's where I think this one's going to shine. That's who this is for. This is, again, like I said before, with all three, year-round, any situation. But I think this is best suited spring and fall. You can get away with this one in the high heat, but I think that bitter opening can be a little much, maybe a little cloying and off-putting in a high heat scenario, where I would say the spring, fall is probably the best two seasons. Not the strongest to cut through the cold for the winter. I think it's ideally spring and fall. Daytime wear, nighttime wear, dressed up or casual, but the way this has that intrigue, that level of intrigue to the scent profile versus the other two, I would think slightly dressier occasions. You can get away with it casually, of course, but I would say it leans more Oxfords and above, and this would be a great suit and tie, somewhat of a statement maker among the three. That's the best settings, in my opinion, for the Eau Intense. So with that said, I rank all of them highly. That's not an issue, but I think if I had to rank them according to best to worst, which there is no worst in this situation, let me be very clear, but I would say, and it's crazy, it kind of works out to the actual price, the way these are priced is actually the way I rank them. It's not intentional for it to be that way. It just kind of works out that way, because I think the best one is still Elysium Parfum pour Homme. I think if you have the money to spend, this is still the ultimate version of Elysium. That is my personal preference. This is not a safe blind buy. This is a very expensive 50 ml fragrance. This is for somebody with money to blow. It's not going to hurt to spend a few $100s. You won't bat an eye at it. This is the ultimate version of Elysium, in my opinion. If I could only have one, it would have to be the Parfum. I think it checks all the boxes for me. It's not obnoxiously loud, it's long lasting, it's the most beautiful use of the note breakdown in the formula, in my opinion, and it has ultimate versatility across the board. That's always the one I'm going to pick, is the one I deem the absolute most versatile. So for me, the best is definitely the Parfum pour Homme. Then we have the newest one, the Eau Intense. I think because this is so interesting and different and kind of a departure from what a lot of people probably expected them to do with this, because it's 6 years later from when the first two came out that they put this out. I feel like this is a feedback fragrance that they've gathered from over the years, and they wanted to create something a bit more unique that didn't step away too much from the original's DNA. I think the Eau Intense name ties into the intensity of this opening in the early stages of this fragrance, because it dries down into a more woodsy, leathery, musky take versus the vetiver heavy take on the other two, which I believe, as I'm saying this, I failed to mention in the scent portion, so I guess I'll say it now. It's not as vetiver heavy. Like I said, the same note breakdown as the others, but this one's just reworked. It's just, I think it's masterfully done, but I would still take the Parfum pour Homme over this one. But I would say if you're going to spend in the $300 range, I think this is the one to get. Then lastly, the most popular one is the one I would rank third among the three. Again, there is no loser in this situation. This is still phenomenal. If you're in the warm climates, if you're in a high humidity situation, let's say you're on the Gulf Coast or something, where it's high humidity, it's hot, you sweat all the time, this is probably going to be the one for you. It's going to be the one you can get at the best price. Just know that you're most likely going to sacrifice some performance. You're going to need to spray this one more often. Obviously, everyone's skin chemistry is different, but this is the freshest. This is the one that, if compliments are important to you, is probably going to be your best bet of the three, I would think, especially in the first hour and a half, 2 hours of you wearing this fragrance. It's super alluring. There's a reason that it's the most popular one. At discounters, you can get it closer to $200 if you're cool with a tester without a cap, under $200 in some cases, which is still pricey. But for the scent DNA, it's hard to go wrong here. But for me, of the three, it's the least interesting. It's the lowest performing. Smells phenomenal, but if I have my way, I'm taking one of the other two over the Parfum Cologne. Well, that's my thoughts on all three versions of Roja Parfums Elysium. So I know this is a little bit different from my typical review and comparison video, because we're talking about three formulas, three different variations, I guess you could say, of the same formula, of the same fragrance, that all perform differently, suit different situations, and smell a little different, one very different from the other. So I felt like this was the best way for me to really portray my thoughts on all three and give you the most information on my opinion as I absolutely could. And until next time, do me a real quick favor, go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, because I do appreciate all the feedback, and I love hearing from you guys. Which of these three have you tried? Do you have all three? Do you have none of them? Are you interested in them? Are you going to be that guy that talks about the clones in the comments? I'm going to get a bunch of that stuff too. It's all good. It's all welcome. Definitely comment below your thoughts on these three fragrances. And until next time, I will say, if you get your hands on any of the versions of Elysium, to be honest with you, I mean, if you get any of them and you give them a spray now, you'll probably end up thanking me later, because they all have their own merit. They all smell great. Have a good one, guys.